Welcome to the Double Shot with your favourite cousins, James and Alex Fitzgerald. Sorry, I laughed there, cuz, because you took a little sip of your coffee. It was very elegant. I think your pinky was actually even standing up there. Must be a managing director
have
thing.
looked more spastic.
Hey, I just realised you're going to be recording with me next week in the Melbourne studio. How good's that?
I know. Will we? Yeah. And I don't think have we ever done one in the Melbourne studio?
Once, and it was maybe like 2 years ago when we sort of first started. And I've got to tell you, the studio has not been cleaned up since then. So just for you, I'll clean it up and we'll find somewhere for you to sit.
Hey, I tell you what, it is so humid in Queensland at the moment. I can't imagine what it was like up in Townsville or wherever you were over the weekend.
I wasn't in Magenta Island. I'll give you the red hot tip. I was in Magnetic Island.
Bit of context. One of our colleagues thought that Alex was in Magenta Island.
Yeah, so I went up to Townsville, cuz. I did the really good sister thing by going up there to help my younger brother. And when I say younger, it's like 2 years, but he can be a bit of a numbnuts and he doesn't listen to this, so that's all right. But JB, producer JB, you know, he's a bit of a numbnuts, mate. So I went up there and tried to help him find a place to live because he's just recently got a job with Rex Airlines as a pilot. And
so
we went over to Magnetic Island.
To be clear, when did he get the job? Like when did he get called to say, hey, Kane, you've got the job?
So they called him on the 20th of December and they said, you've got the job. And then on the 6th of January, they flew him to Wagga Wagga and he did 6 weeks of training there. And then he literally went straight from Wagga to Townsville. Yep. So I met him there on Friday. Yep. And the great man had to start in the jump seat on Monday. So he had 2 days to find a place to live in, by the way, a 0.5% rental vacancy market in Townsville. Head scratcher. That's a head scratcher for me. Can I tell you why really quickly? We talk about this all the time. Far North Queensland is pretty desolate in terms of jobs at the moment. A lot of places, sadly, have had to shut their doors because they just didn't have the backpackers or the uni students to fill those casual jobs. So unfortunately, the two sort of main streets you drive down, not too unlike Chapel Street here in Melbourne, 4 lease sign after 4 lease sign after 4 lease sign. And so I just go, okay, all these jobs that these shops have shut and yet you can't find anywhere to live. There's 0.5% rental vacancy rate. So this doesn't add up. What's going on here? And also when they dial students back up and backpackers back up, where the hell is everybody going to live? So I don't really envy the situation my brother finds himself in right now. But any hoodles, Magnetic Island, just off the coast of Townsville, absolutely lovely. But I'm convinced that is where our good friend Satan goes to cool down because it was 44 degrees and I couldn't breathe.
Very good. Hey, did you find his RAV4? Your brother's RAV4 was parked at our office in Nerang, which copped a little bit of flooding. And the guys, last I saw, knackers and whackers going around trying to look for his RAV4 to make sure it's safe. They were gone for about an hour and I think they were still struggling to find it.
Very funny. Yes, okay, it's not a RAV4, it's a Honda CR-V. And they look identical. You know, boys, use some creativity, would you? Yeah, I sent him on a wild goose chase of a car that physically doesn't exist. So
they thought it had been washed away into the river.
Well, poor Jolie in our office, he did actually have a car that was victim of the floods that it got washed up and washed away. But unfortunately, fortunately, Kane, my brother's car, did not, and that is because it's not a RAV4. It's a different car, so it was there.
Yeah. And, geez, it's been a tough week. Like, we've had the floods. They're now moved down to from southeast Queensland into northern New South Wales over the weekend. The Lismore photos were so hard to see and watch. And now it's hitting Sydney. There's parts of Sydney that have got flash flooding. And then on top of that, Saturday morning, we find out that Shane Warne, the greatest cricketer of all time, has passed at the young age of 52. Oh. What the hell is going on?
The shock. You know, it gave me so much appreciation to the sporting world of Australia because it was all over every news feed, like my social media, everything. The appreciation and genuine love for one of the greats, if not the greatest cricketer Australia has ever seen. I mean, it is remarkable.
It is indeed. It is indeed. But just been real negative the past couple of weeks. So surely we are due for some awesome, fantastic news, some things to brighten up our lives after the last month that we've had.
Well, I mean, there are some small wins, and you've always got to look for the small wins. And one of the property small wins of late, which I've got a bit of a theory on.
I knew you were gonna go to this at the outset. Had you been your bonnet over this a couple of months ago about the social tax that was being levied upon the consumer in Australia, developers around Victoria had they're absolutely up in arms.
Oh.
Tom Travaskis, the whatever he is of the Urban Development Institute of Australia, the president, the chairman, whatever he is,
he's a big wig. Yep.
Yeah, likened it to Woolworths or Coles lobbing a tax for homelessness on all of our groceries, which I didn't mind. Mate, has there been a backflip? Is it just me, or has there been a complete backflip?
Yeah, so I'm going to summarise this best I can. I'm not really good at summaries. Let's try anyway. So basically, Vic state government came out. They said we're going to tax 1.75% on every new home sale up to a certain value, and that 1.75% is going to go straight to our affordable housing fund, and we're going to pump out more affordable housing. Pretty much every property sort of council or organisation in Victoria came out like, we were not consulted. This is disgusting. And they all drew comparisons to like what you just said, but like social comparisons, but also they put in a dollar figure what it's going to cost the average punter, because it will be passed on to your first and second home buyers, right? The average Joe. Now, I've got a theory. Sorry, I'll back up.
Ooh.
That got pulled out, scrapped nearly immediately. It barely had the chance to grow legs. I'd like to say it was a twinkle in the eye of the Labor state government here in Victoria. But as I thought about this, cuz, there is a state election here in Victoria at the end of this year. They've brought out this tax. They knew it was going to get smashed. And guess what they said? Mr. Palace, the treasurer of Victoria.
Yeah.
He says, as a package of reforms, these matters are finished and they will never be revisited by this government. He's basically saying, hey guys, you know what? We brought it out. You don't agree. And on that basis, we hear you and we're going to take it off because we are for the common man.
He went down swinging, Tim Pallas, too, because he also said that the development industry, in his view, were disingenuous in the way in which they engaged. Which,
well, he can't completely fold.
Words.
He can't completely fold to them though, can he? He can't go, all right, guys, we've heard you and we're going to actually take it off now. He's gone, you're disingenuous, but you know what? Fine, we won't do it. And then bang, they're hoping to win an election at the end of the year. That's my conspiracy 101.
All right, well, we might take a break, let you cool down, and we'll get into some of the big news items. All right, Alex, you've cooled down. Conspiracy. One thing that is not a conspiracy is what the Reserve Bank is doing with our interest rates. They've been very clear. They've held the line yet again this month in their announcement in terms of what's going on out there and what they're going to be doing with interest rates. Where do we want to start on this one? Because there was a few takeaways.
There are. Let's go one for one, both of our input here, and we'll just do key takeaways of their most recent statement that happened at the start of March.
Cool.
So first one is they said our recovery post-Omicron is ahead of schedule. And I really like this. They've pretty much sort of said that COVID's in the rear view. I feel that way, but I'm always a little bit hesitant.
They also referenced the Russia and Ukraine disputes. Said it creates uncertainty. It doesn't have a big direct impact on Australia, but it does create a little bit of uncertainty. I think something like 0.2% of our economy is impacted by that. But it creates uncertainty, and they've acknowledged that.
Yeah, fair enough. I guess we're already concerned by those high inflation, and it's very topical at the moment. Certain goods are experiencing very high inflation, but they're now more concerned about Russia making up 8% of the global oil supply and how that will, I guess, sort of feed into our general cost of living here. So they've made a little bit of comment there. It is a concern. They will keep an eye on it.
including fuel. I saw that was nearly $2 today. Retail spending and household savings, very strong though. So whilst there's all that going on, they are encouraged by the fact that we're still putting aside a lot of savings. In fact, our savings are now up to $250 billion in Aussie bank accounts around Australia.
Handy savings. Wage growth is solid. It's about 2.3% at the moment, but it's it's only where it was pre-pandemic. So it's not like significant in any way, shape or form. And we want it to be higher. I believe they want it to be closer to about 3%, sustainable for us to sort of push up those interest rates.
Inflation, as you mentioned earlier, they did acknowledge that whilst it's picking up, it's nowhere near as high as what it is in the United States, parts of Europe. Our headline inflation number is about 3.5%. Those countries, the US, for example, more than 6% today. So we're still much lower than other countries from that perspective.
Yeah, I believe our debt to GDP as well. So we're doing relatively well. And the last one, the one we always look for, the one that more people should go to and have a bit of a look at before they freak out with the media. The RBA are still going to be patient and they're not going to increase interest rates until we see that wage growth. Even if, they've said, we have some high inflation in the short term just because of supply chain issues. They acknowledge they are supply chain issue inflation and not necessarily true inflation that will push up the interest rate. So, look, I think all pretty reasonable and good to see that they are holding strong on the interest rate front.
Correct. And a little fun fact that came out the same day from Commonwealth Bank. They said that their business lending, so their lending to businesses, is nearly double what it was for the 6 months to December. So 6 months to December 2021 versus the 6 months to December 2020, nearly double. So there's clearly a lot of business confidence, businesses borrowing to expand their businesses or invest in their businesses. That is generally a very good sign of the economy and confidence. So they'd be things that would be giving the Reserve Bank some comfort as well, I'd say.
Absolutely. And I'm totally going to just go as I please here, Cuz, because I feel like it. We're talking about inflation. We're talking about prices of things going up and supply chain issues. As many of us know, the biggest hits that many of us have sort of seen is the cost of a house, new detached house that is, so specifically, and that's a new build, has gone up just under 20% over the last 12 months to January. And of course, that is not strictly inflation related. That's labor. No. Materials have surged in price. And even sort of builders are competing with each other. So we're seeing this massive cost increase for guys to not only deliver on time and on schedule, but within their budget. And a lot of them being quite conservative off the back of, on the sort of negative news that you mentioned before, some big guys and even little guys going broke, basically. I can't sugarcoat that. Sorry, cuz.
Jeez, Hush. I tell you what, I'll pick people's spirits up a little bit, though.
Oh, my days.
We get a lot of people right into our podcast on the socials and the emails who are looking at buying their own home. And it's been a tough time for anyone who's in the market for their own home over the past, say, 2 years, really. I've got some good news, though. Listings are on the way up. We're seeing more and more people listing homes, which is a good thing for buyers because it was certainly in favour of sellers in the past 24 months. 27% increase in listings for the month of February. The total number of listings on realestate.com is up about 11% on this time last year, which is encouraging. It's been led by Canberra, 44% increase.
Dude.
Melbourne 39%, Sydney 37%, Darwin 27%, and Hobart 20% as well. Brisbane and Adelaide still lagging, and Perth the lowest, in fact, only nearly 8% increase. Good news, though, particularly given that the big markets, Sydney and Melbourne, the most unaffordable markets, are starting to see more supply come into those markets where there is already a lot of buyers pent up.
Yeah, really interesting. Hey, and I just wanted to say, because I did think this was quite funny, and maybe there's a technical reference here that I'm not aware of, but the principal economist at BIS Shrapnel. He said that you know what I'm going to say, don't you?
What? I was just laughing over the fact that you stumbled over the word BIS Shrapnel.
Where is it? What have I said?
BIS Shrapnel.
Is that not right?
It's just very, you really put the emphasis on the fact that there's two words in there.
Anyway, so BIS Shrapnel, I thought I got that wrong, but that's what my dad's been calling it for years. So someone's wrong. Blame him. Anyway, he said the cost growth profile is going to be strong into 2022. Well into double digits nationally for houses. And then he goes, and that's on top of a pretty frothy 2021. Now, do you think he wrote this on a Friday afternoon thinking ahead of where he would rather be? Or is frothy now a technical term for, I don't know, like a really good year?
I don't know. Maybe he was sipping a frothy whilst he was writing it and it just seemed to float into his mind.
The great man, he's confirmed a pretty frothy 2021.
You know what? 2021, it's not a bad way to describe 2021. It was a frothy year, wasn't it?
Look, I don't drink beer, cuz, but like you want a frothy beer is my understanding. But, you don't want too much froth, but you don't want no froth. Is that a pretty good way to explain a good beer and therefore a good 2021?
Yeah, you want just enough froth on the top, particularly if it's a beer off the tap for sure. No, I like where he's going with that. The gentleman from BIS Shrapnel. Hey, I've got an interesting one. I'm going off script a little bit, but I thought I'd just tell you about this article that I read, and it's something that's becoming really prevalent in the United States, and it's a new trend. And the trend is this: a lot of people have moved away from big cities like New York, LA, San Francisco through the pandemic to get a bit more space, a bit more affordable, a bit better lifestyle. But now, though, they're being encouraged, workers, to get back into the city offices, at least, in a hybrid format. What the hotels are noticing is they're seeing a lot of people come into the big cities like San Francisco, LA, and New York and do a 1 or 2 night stay at a time, to the point where they're finding their midweek stays are growing at a faster rate than weekend stays right now.
Why? But why? Sir?
So occupancy rates in the United States climbed 50% last year in the month of February, highest increase since February 2019, majority of it in the middle of the week for people who are commuting back, not wanting to obviously move back to the city, probably only doing 1 or 2 days. And then what they're doing is they're just having a standing booking at a hotel every week, every fortnight, every month for 1 or 2 days at a time.
Really interesting. It sounds like that sort of limbo period that I feel like I'm even sort of seeing a bit here in Melbourne, where people are like, I sort of want to go back to work in the city, but I also don't, want to live my life with a 4-hour commute every day. I feel like this might be where those sort of, we call them millennial hotel chains, will benefit from the most, whereby they're kind of pretty affordable. First one I can think of is called the Indigo, even I think Ace Hotel chain, where they've got like this sort of millennial buyer profile is probably the best word I can put it, where the rooms are small, it's pretty affordable per night, nothing overly special in terms of amenities or like, what's the front desk called? The concierge, that does all these special fancy things for you. So maybe it's going to be the century of millennial hotels.
So we're seeing it in London too, so much so that most of the Accor hotels in London offer a deal where if you can commit for more than a couple of months to 1 or 2 nights a week, you get about a 20% discount on your room, and they'll let you apply that over the full 2 or 3 months. In other parts of America, I think this one's in Chicago, there's a work, stay, play package where you can get the co-working space, and then they'll have a service where they'll run you around to all your meetings and even book restaurants and social outings for you. So it's becoming a real thing. People deciding to, I guess, seize on the business opportunity that comes from this hybrid working arrangement that looks like it's going to be a bit of a permanent fixture in a post-pandemic environment workplace.
Think about it too, cuz you're saving money on whatever it costs you to commute to work, back from work. It's feasible to have 1 or 2 nights in the city. So it actually kind of does make sense. It will be interesting to see, though, if these hotels sort of like bump up the prices as it gets a little bit more hotter, and then, maybe we go back to a little bit more of a pre-pandemic type of thing.
And that's a good point, because the one I was mentioning in Chicago, all those services are complimentary at the moment. Ooh. So complimentary working spaces, complimentary running you around town, booking all your appointments and all that for you. So it'll be very interesting to see if it can hold. But I thought it was a great initiative. Really cool.
Yeah. All right, guys. I don't want to finish this episode before we talk about what's going on at ProBuild. You and Mitch talked about it last week. Biggest builder in Australia, or were at one point, head-to-head with Multiplex, have not quite collapsed, but they've gone into a significant administration. What is going on there? Can they be saved? Is somebody looking at them? What is going on?
Well, there's only really been one development over the past week, and that is that a company called Roberts Co. have been afforded exclusive due diligence over the whole of the ProBuild business by the administrator Deloitte. They have given them that exclusive due diligence because they've offered to provide ongoing employment to all of the ProBuild employees based in Melbourne. So that was obviously something that the Deloitte saw as a significant advantage compared to the other people that might have been looking. Roberts Co., Sydney-based, don't have a Melbourne office, run by a guy called Andrew Roberts, who used to run Brookfield Multiplex, now called Brookfield Multiplex. Started in 2016, predominantly in Sydney. Interestingly enough, they turned over about $375 million last year. So it's not a lot of money given that ProBuild turn over billions. And they made about $8 million profit off that. Clearly, the fact that they're going to retain the staff and this Andrew Roberts fella has a very good reputation and name has afforded him probably a good opportunity, but also seems like a great opportunity for the staff if they can all keep their jobs. So it might be a nice ending in the end. Yeah.
No, I mean, God, what a great outcome if it goes that way. And let's not forget, Virgin went into, voluntary administration sometime in 2020, and I've still been flying around with Virgin, so they have been somewhat bailed out. I don't know anything about their balance sheet, but they're still here today, so maybe it could mean great things for ProBuild too.
And they're the same administrators, so there you go. Maybe that's their sort of modus operandi, is to try and get these companies back on their feet.
Oh, God, if it's not, get them out of here, would you?
It's a nice ending.
Yeah,
it is a nice ending.
Oh, thanks for ending that one on a positive note, cuz I was a bit worried you were feeling a bit depressed at the start of this episode. The last few, you've said there's a lot of negativity in the world. I think I might need to come up there and make you a bit of blend 55.
Well, I'm coming down your way next. In fact, I come down on Friday. I'm there for all of next week. We will record in person. We'll be back having a coffee in person. This would be great.
What a joy. You've absolutely made me day.
All right, guys, that wraps it up for this week. We really love hearing from you. So if you've got any questions, send them through. We'll do the quick shots this week as per normal. If you can recommend us to just one friend, we really appreciate it. We know you have been because we see how many people listen. So thank you for that in advance. And other than that, we'll see you next week. Have a great week. Put a smile on the dial. It's all up from here.
Oh, look at this guy. So cute. Thanks for listening to another episode of The Double Shot with your favourite cousins, Alex and James Fitzgerald. If you've got a burning question or something we absolutely need to talk about on the pod, please write to us. Both of our emails are in the show notes. For little real estate tidbits and a little bit of banter, a lot of banter, you can follow us on the gram. Our handle is thedoubleshot.podcast. That, my friends, is thedoubleshot.podcast. Until next time, think of us when you sit back and sip your next double shot.